Good afternoon. The US Embassy in Afghanistan is advising Americans not to travel to Kabul airport unless they've been instructed to do so because of potential security threats at the gates. Thousands of people are still massed outside the perimeter, desperate to board flights out of the country. It comes as the Taliban's co-founder and head of its political wing, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, arrived in Kabul for talks on forming a new Afghan government. Here's Frankie McCamley.
Chaos consuming crowds near Kabul airport. At the front, reports bodies are carried away from the crush, with others fighting for their lives. Clear signs tension is mounting, this man threatening people with a whip. The US is now advising its citizens not to travel to the airport unless specifically told to, but even those can't get through.
We've got a legal visa. Many people who are coming here don't have the right documents, but we've got the visa and they won't let us through.
This morning, a plane carrying 200 evacuees, mainly security guards from the British Embassy, arrived in Brize Norton. In hiding, this security guard tells me he and other colleagues have been left behind.
We feel abandoned. We can't stay in our home. It's dangerous. Sometimes I can't look at my kids. I was the one who put us at such high risk. If I knew this company would do this to us, I would never have joined.
Outside, banks are closed for the 7th day in a row. There's no cash in the machines, and hospitals aren't running at full capacity because women aren't turning up. The Taliban's co-founder is now in the Afghan capital, Kabul. Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar is expected to join talks on establishing a new government. So far, Britain has evacuated just under 2,500 people, but time is running out as fears grow for those not here, in hiding, worried for their lives. Frankie McCamley, BBC News.
Well, our security correspondent Frank Gardner is here. Frank, Mullah Baradar, he is in Kabul. Lots of reassurances that this is a new Taliban, not the old one we all know.
Well, I think there are kind of two questions standing back at it that float to the surface here. One is that there are a number of really chilling, disturbing reports which the UN Secretary General mentioned about kidnappings of or people being coerced, door-to-door hunting down of people from the former regime. The question is, are those just one-offs by a few hot-headed militants acting on their own, or are they part of a secret order issued from above? And the bigger question, I think, is whether, referring to what you're referring to there, the arrival of Mullah Baradar in Kabul, is the new Taliban really reformed? Have they actually changed? And it depends which view you want to take. So the Chief of Defence Staff, Britain's Chief of Defence Staff, General Nick Carter, has tended to be on the more optimistic side, that they have learnt their lessons. They've seen how unpopular they have been with many people, and they're therefore going to try to be more inclusive. Cynics would say, actually, this is just window dressing. It's just lip gloss. They're saying the things that the international community want to hear. But once international attention, the focus moves off Afghanistan, they will revert to type oppressing women and impose a really strict hardline rule. We simply don't know the answer yet. We can guess, but we don't know.
OK. Frank, many thanks. Frank Gardner there. Well, with so many people now hoping to escape Afghanistan, Turkey has warned of a new wave of migration and called on European countries to take responsibility. Greece has also built a new 25-mile fence and surveillance system along its border with Turkey. The Greek government says it won't wait passively for the possible impact of a refugee crisis following the Taliban takeover. Here, police have released an image of a man wanted in connection with a suspected double murder in central London. A 45-year-old woman and a 59-year-old man were found dead with stab wounds at separate addresses in Westminster. Detectives have told the public not to approach Lee Peacock, who's 49, whom officers now want to question. The trial of the R&B singer R. Kelly, who's accused of sexually abusing several women, has heard claims by his former tour manager that he bribed a government worker to obtain a fake ID to marry the singer Aaliyah, who was underage. She was 15 at the time. Kelly is also accused of bribery and denies all the charges. Now, the government has announced plans to tighten rules on the importation of dogs into the UK in response to a rise in puppy smuggling. They include raising the minimum age for imported dogs from 15 weeks to 6 months and banning heavily pregnant animals. Lebo Diseko has a story.
Hundreds of puppies brought into the country illegally are intercepted each year. The number found not to have met the UK's pet import rules more than doubling between 2019 to 2020 alone. Many suffer health problems and have not been checked by certified vets. An increase too in the number with docked tails and cropped ears, more than 600% in the last 5 years. The government is proposing new rules for puppy welfare standards, which include raising the minimum age at which puppies can be imported from 15 weeks to 6 months, a ban on importing heavily pregnant dogs, and an end to importing dogs with cropped ears or docked tails.
When it comes to ear cropping, unfortunately what we have seen is an increase in demand for dogs with cropped ears. A completely unnecessary and abhorrent mutilation that causes nothing but pain and has no medical benefit. It is done purely for the way these dogs look. And we have seen an increase in their use in the media, by social media influencers and celebrities, which has led to an increase in demand by the public.
Animal welfare campaigners have welcomed the consultation, saying it could bring significant progress in the fight against such practices. It's hoped these new proposals, part of an 8-week Great Britain-wide consultation, will lead to new rules, ending what's been called a grim trade and preventing cruelty. Lebo Diseko, BBC News.
The latest government coronavirus figures show there were 32,058 new infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period, which means on average there were 31,698 new cases per day in the last week. The most recent figures show there were almost 6,500 people in hospital with the virus on Thursday. 104 deaths were recorded in the past 24 hours, with an average of 100 deaths a day in the past week. On vaccinations, 87.5% of adults in the UK have now had their first jab and 76.3% have had 2 jabs. Police in Australia have clashed with thousands of anti-lockdown protesters in 2 of the country's biggest cities, making more than 250 arrests. In Melbourne, police used pepper spray to break up the crowds, with some protesters having broken through police lines. While in Sydney, where lockdown measures have just been extended for another month due to record new infections, 1,000 officers were deployed to keep order. Around 300,000 carbon dioxide monitors could be made available to schools in England next month to help improve ventilation and reduce the risk of COVID. The Department for Education says the monitors will help identify where more airflow is needed. And in cricket, rain has mainly held off to allow the first ever finals of the 100 to be played at Lord's. The women were in action first, with Southern Brave taking on Oval Invincibles. Joe Wilson was watching.
There might be 99 different opinions about the 100, but one overriding reason for the tournament: bring cricket a new audience. Southern Brave fielding first. Two established stars of English cricket, the catcher, Danny Wyatt, the bowler, Anya Shrubsole. Oval Invincibles had Fran Wilson. Well, she loves shots like that, and if you are feeling the rain, focus on the flame. The final must go on. 121 was the total scored by the Invincibles. Chase that, Southern Brave. OK? Danny Wyatt, caught, gone for none. Well, don't stop there, Marizanne Kapp, go again, get another. Batters game? Not here. Rain had stopped, torrential wickets falling. When you're supposed to whack every ball, it can all go wrong very quickly. A rapid descent. The score was 14 for 6 when Kapp took this catch. Simple as that. The Invincibles looked it. And I can tell you in the past couple of minutes, the Invincibles have completed their victory, bowling the Brave out for just 73. Now that was a surprise. The men's players have just finished warming up for their final. But Clive, I wanted to finish with a word about the crowd here, which has grown throughout the afternoon. Officially just over 17,000, which for a domestic women's cricket match in England is a record.
Indeed. Joe, thank you. Joe Wilson there at Lord's. That's it. I'll be back with the late news at 10 past 10, now on BBC One. Time for the news where you are. Have a very good evening.